The ship was small and white and carried no weapons. It moved slowly through the darkness of space toward the massive station that floated among the stars. Inside the ship sat a woman named. She wore a simple blue uniform with Earth's flag on her shoulder. Her hands were folded in her lap, and her heart beat fast with hope and fear. Was Earth's first ambassador to the galaxy. Humanity had discovered faster-than-light travel only 20 years ago. They were the youngest species to reach the stars. Now carried a message of peace to the Galactic Concordat, a council of 12 ancient alien races that ruled most of the known universe. The station grew larger in her window. It was called the Hall of Voices, and it was bigger than any city on Earth. Thousands of ships moved around it like insects around a hive, took a deep breath. She had practiced her speech 100 times. She knew every word by heart. Her ship landed in a massive docking bay. When the doors opened, she stepped out alone. This was important. She wanted to show that humanity came without tricks or threats. She came as a friend. 2 tall guards waited for her. They were a reptilian species with green scales and cold yellow eyes. They were the most powerful race in the Concordat. They had ruled for 10,000 years, and they did not like newcomers. The guards said nothing. They simply turned and walked, expecting her to follow, kept her head high and walked behind them through long hallways made of black stone. Strange symbols covered the walls. Other aliens passed by and stared at her with curiosity or disgust. She was something new, something they had never seen before. Finally, they reached the council chamber. It was a circular room with 12 platforms arranged in a ring. On each platform sat representatives of a different species. Some looked almost human. Others were so strange that could not understand how they were alive. In the center of the room was a small circle of light. This was where she would stand. She walked to the center and looked up at the faces watching her. Most showed nothing. A few showed open hatred. Only 2 seemed kind. One was a tall, insect-like creature with gentle, compound eyes. The other was a being that seemed to be made of flowing water held in a vague shape. At the highest platform sat High Arbiter of the. He was old. His scales faded to a pale green, but his eyes burned with cold intelligence. He looked at the way a person might look at an insect that had crawled into their home. Began to speak. Her voice was clear and strong. Great members of the Galactic Concordat, I come to you as a representative of Earth and all humanity. We are young among the stars. We have much to learn, but we come with open hands and open hearts. We seek only peace, trade, and friendship. We wish to join your great community and contribute what we can. We ask only for the chance to prove ourselves worthy of your trust. She paused and waited. The silence stretched on and on. Then spoke. His voice was like stones grinding together. Humanity has not earned the right to speak in this chamber. Felt her stomach drop, but she kept her face calm. I understand your caution, High Arbiter. We are new and unknown to you, but surely dialogue is the first step toward understanding. Thin lips pulled back in what might have been a smile. You misunderstand. This is not a dialogue. This is a judgment. Before could respond, guards appeared at her sides and grabbed her arms. She did not fight. She did not understand what was happening, but she knew that fighting would only make things worse. Humanity stands accused of unlicensed expansion into territories claimed by the Concordat, announced. Humanity stands accused of genetic instability that threatens the purity of the galactic gene pool. Humanity stands accused of dangerous ambition that will upset the balance of power. Shook her head. These accusations are false. We have expanded only into empty systems. We threaten no one. We only want peace. Silence commanded. The accused does not speak. The council will now vote. The vote took less than a minute. 10 voices spoke for guilt. Only 2 spoke against. The insect creature and the water being tried to argue, but their words were ignored. The decision was made. Felt ice spread through her body as she understood. This had been planned. Her trial was a show, nothing more. The Concordat had already decided what would happen to her before she ever left Earth. "The sentence is death," said. "The execution will be broadcast to all worlds as a warning. Humanity will learn its place." Looked up at the High Arbiter. She did not cry. She did not beg. Instead, she spoke words that would echo through history. "You are making a mistake. Humanity asked for peace. We came with empty hands. If you do this, the hands that come next will not be empty." Laughed. It was an ugly sound. "Your species is 50 years behind the youngest race in this chamber. You have no fleet. You have no weapons. You are nothing. And now you will be less than nothing." They dragged to the center of the chamber. A device lowered from the ceiling. It glowed with terrible light, stood straight and tall. She thought of Earth. She thought of her family. She thought of the blue oceans and green forests she would never see again. The device fired, died instantly. Her body turned to ash in a flash of light. The execution was broadcast on every frequency, to every world, exactly as had ordered. He wanted the galaxy to see what happened to species that forgot their place. He wanted humanity to understand that they were insects beneath the boot of the Concordat. The transmission reached Earth 17 hours later. It played on every screen in every home. Billions of people watched their ambassador die. They saw her stand tall. They heard her final words. They watched her turn to dust. For a long moment, the whole planet was silent. No one spoke. No one moved. The shock was too great. Then the silence changed. It became something else, something cold, something dark, something that the galaxy had never felt before and would never forget. Earth stopped talking to the stars. All communications went dark. All human ships returned home. The planet closed itself off like a fist clenching shut. The Concordats celebrated. They believed they had broken humanity's spirit before it could become a threat. They could not have been more wrong. In homes and offices, in military bases and government buildings, humans looked at each other with the same expression. It was not fear. It was not grief. It was something far more dangerous. It was resolve. The galaxy had drawn first blood. Earth would draw the last. For 3 days after the execution, Earth said nothing to the galaxy. No messages, no demands, no threats. The Concordat watched and waited. Their spies tried to gather information, but they found nothing. It was as if humanity had simply given up. High Arbiter told the Council that their plan had worked perfectly. Humanity was broken. They would never be a threat. The other races nodded and agreed. Only the and the stayed silent. They had voted against the execution, and now they felt a cold fear that the others did not understand. They were right to be afraid. On Earth, something incredible was happening. For centuries, humanity had been divided. Nations had fought nations. Old hatreds had burned for generations. But in those 3 silent days, everything changed. Leaders from every country gathered in secret. Enemies sat across tables from enemies. Men and women who had spent their lives fighting each other now looked at each other with new eyes. They had all watched the same video. They had all seen die. They had all heard her final words. And they had all made the same decision. The meeting lasted 72 hours without sleep. When it ended, the Terran Compact was born. For the first time in human history, Earth spoke with one voice. Every nation dissolved its separate military. Every resource was pooled. Every factory, every scientist, every soldier now served a single purpose. The world leaders announced the news to their people. There were no arguments, no protests. No one complained about giving up their national identity. The galaxy had given humanity a common enemy, and that enemy had united them more completely than any politician or prophet ever could. Admiral was chosen to lead the new Terran defense fleet. She was 62 years old, with gray hair cut short and eyes that had seen too many battles. She had spent her life serving her country. Now she would serve her species. Her first address to the people was broadcast from the ruins of the old United Nations building. She stood straight and spoke clearly. 3 days ago, the Galactic Concordat murdered Ambassador. She came to them with words of peace. She offered friendship. She offered cooperation. They answered with death. They broadcast her execution to 1,000 worlds. They wanted us to see. They wanted us to be afraid. They wanted us to know our place. She paused. Her eyes were hard as stone. They believed we would beg. They believed we would bow. They will learn that humanity does neither. We will not seek revenge for its own sake. We will seek justice. We will build a fleet. We will train our soldiers. And when we are ready, we will make the galaxy understand that humanity is not to be dismissed. Died standing tall. We will honor her by standing taller. The speech ended. Across the planet, people went to work. Factories that had been closed for decades roared back to life. Scientists who had been working on separate projects joined together. Young men and women lined up to join the military. The energy of an entire world focused on a single goal. But humanity was smart enough to know they could not do this alone. They were 50 years behind the rest of the galaxy. They needed help. That help came from unexpected friends. 2 weeks after his death, a small ship appeared at the edge of Earth's solar system. It sent a message in halting English. The ship belonged to the insect-like species that had voted against humanity's condemnation. An ambassador named was brought to Earth under heavy guard. Humans were not ready to trust anyone from the stars, but came with gifts that proved her sincerity. "We could not stop what happened," said through a translator device. "They are too powerful. We must obey or be destroyed, but we can help you in secret. We want the Concordat to change. We believe you can make it change." She brought star charts showing the location of every Concordat military base. She brought data on their weapons, their ships, their tactics. She brought something even more valuable. She brought hope. "They are not as strong as they seem," explained. "Many species in the Concordat hate them. They stay only because they fear what happens if they leave. If someone challenged thee and won, everything would change." A week later, they made contact too. Their ambassador was a flowing shape of water that called itself Depth of Current. There were philosophers and scientists. They had no love for war, but they had watched die, and something inside them had changed. "We thought the Concordat stood for civilization," Depth of Current said. "We were wrong. It stands for control through fear. Your ambassador showed more dignity in death than the High Arbiter has shown in 10,000 years of life. We will help you." They brought technology. They showed human scientists new ways to build ships and weapons. They shared secrets that they had forbidden anyone else to learn. Human engineers took these secrets and did something no one expected. They made them better. This was what the galaxy did not understand about humanity. Other species created technology and then used it unchanged for centuries. Humans could not leave anything alone. They had to tinker. They had to improve. They had to push the limits. Within 6 months, Earth had built a fleet of 200 warships. Each one was faster and stronger than anything the Concordat had expected. The weapons they carried were based on designs, but improved in ways that made even the nervous. Admiral spent every day training her crews. She pushed them harder than any soldiers had ever been pushed. She made them run simulations until they could fly their ships in their sleep. She taught them tactics that broke every rule of galactic warfare. "The Concordat has fought the same way for thousands of years," she told her officers. "They know nothing else. We will show them something new. We will be fast when they expect slow. We will be aggressive when they expect caution. We will appear from nowhere and vanish before they can respond. They have numbers and experience. We have surprise and fury." 9 months after his death, the fleet was ready. 200 ships hung in the darkness beyond Mars, hidden from Concordat sensors by technology they had provided. Each ship was crewed by humans who had volunteered knowing they might never return. Admiral stood on the bridge of her flagship, She looked at the stars and thought about what was coming. There would be death. There would be destruction. Many of the young men and women under her command would not survive. But there was no other choice. The Concordat had decided that humanity had no right to exist. They would learn just how wrong they were. Gave the order. The fleet jumped to faster-than-light speed and vanished from human space. The war for humanity's future had begun. The Nexus Ring was the heart of the Galactic Concordat. It was a station so large that small moons could fit inside it. Every trade route passed through it. Every military order came from it. Every message between the 12 ruling species traveled through its communication arrays. If the Concordat was a body, the Nexus Ring was its brain. Commander of the Defense Force was bored. He had commanded the Nexus Ring garrison for 15 years, and nothing had ever happened. Why would it? No species would dare attack the most protected station in the galaxy. He spent his days reading reports and his nights drinking imported wine from his. When the alarm started screaming, he thought it was a drill. Then his second officer ran onto the bridge with terror in his eyes. "Ships," the officer gasped. 200 ships just appeared from faster than light. They are heading directly for us. Laughed. 200 ships. From where? Tell them to identify themselves and explain why they are disturbing my evening. Commander, the officer's voice shook. They are human ships. Stopped laughing. That was impossible. Humanity did not have 200 ships. Humanity barely had 20 ships. Intelligence reports said it would take them decades to build a real fleet. This had to be a mistake. But it was not a mistake. The human fleet dropped out of faster-than-light in perfect formation. They had practiced this maneuver 1,000 times in simulation. Now they executed it flawlessly in reality. 200 ships arranged in a sharp wedge, pointing directly at the Nexus Ring like a spear aimed at a heart. Admiral stood on the bridge of the and looked at the massive station filling her. Her face showed no emotion. Her voice was calm and cold. "Open a channel to all frequencies," she ordered. "Every language, every species. I want everyone to hear this." Her communications officer nodded. "Channel open, Admiral." Spoke. Her words were translated instantly into 100 languages and broadcast across the galaxy. "This is Admiral of the Terran Defense Fleet. 10 months ago, the Galactic Concordat executed Ambassador. She was an unarmed diplomat who came seeking peace. She was murdered without just cause and without fair trial. Her death was broadcast as a warning to humanity." She paused. On the Nexus Ring, Commander was shouting orders that no one followed. His crew was frozen with shock. "Consider this our response," continued. "The Concordat believed humanity was weak. The Concordat believed we would accept our place. The Concordat was wrong. We do not come seeking conquest. We do not come seeking genocide. We come seeking justice. Those who stand aside will not be harmed. Those who stand against us will fall. This is not a threat. This is a promise." She cut the channel and turned to her tactical officer. "Begin the attack." The human fleet moved like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. Concordat ships were large and slow, built for intimidation rather than speed. Human ships were small and fast, built for one purpose only. They darted between the enemy vessels like wolves among cattle. Commander finally found his voice. "All ships, defensive formation, protect the station." But his ships could not form a defensive anything. The humans were already among them, firing weapons that should not have existed. Concordat shields flickered and died under weapons that struck faster than their sensors could track. Explosions lit up the darkness of space. The garrison had 50 ships. Within an hour, half of them were destroyed or disabled. The humans had lost only 12. Watched the battle unfold on her tactical display. She felt no joy in the destruction. She felt only grim satisfaction. Every burning Concordat ship was a message. Every dead enemy soldier was a word in a sentence the galaxy would never forget. Marines ready, her ground commander reported. Assault teams standing by. Launch them, ordered. Priority target is the main data core. I want everything they have, every secret, every plan, every weakness. Dozens of small boarding craft shot from the human fleet toward the Nexus ring. They punched through the station's weakened shields and latched onto the hull like parasites. Armored Marines poured out, cutting through metal with plasma torches and fighting their way inside. The station's defenders were not prepared for this. Concordat species did not fight hand to hand. They considered it barbaric. They relied on ships and automated defenses. When human soldiers came charging through their hallways with rifles blazing, they did not know how to respond. Lieutenant led the assault on the data core. She was 26 years old and had grown up watching the video of execution. She had joined the military the day after the Terran Compact was formed. Now she fought with a fury that terrified her enemies. "Keep moving," she shouted to her squad. "We stop when we're dead or when we've won." They reached the data core in 40 minutes. Concordat technicians tried to purge the system, but human hackers working from the blocked their commands. The Marines secured the room and began downloading everything. Commander watched from his bridge as his station fell. His remaining ships were scattered and broken. His soldiers were surrendering. The humans had taken the Nexus ring in less than 4 hours. A human officer appeared on his. It was Admiral. "Commander," she said, "your station is under our control. Your fleet is destroyed. You have 2 choices. Surrender and your surviving crew will be treated fairly. Resist and you will be eliminated. You have 1 minute to decide." Wanted to fight. He wanted to die with honor, but he looked at the frightened faces of his crew, young men and women who had never expected to see real combat. He thought of their families. "We surrender," he said. The words tasted like poison. Nodded. "A wise choice. Have your crew gather in the main docking bay. They will be processed and eventually returned to their homes. The Concordat will want them back so they can tell the story of what happened here." She cut the channel and turned to her officers. "Status report." "Data download complete," her intelligence officer announced. "We have everything. Fleet positions, communication codes, political secrets. It will take months to analyze it all." Casualties: 87 dead, 200 wounded, 3 ships destroyed, 11 damaged but repairable. Closed her eyes for a moment. 87 lives, 87 families who would receive terrible news. She would write a letter to each one personally. "Prepare for withdrawal," she ordered. "We have what we came for. Leave automated defenses to hold the station. The Concordat will be too confused to retake it for weeks." As the fleet prepared to leave, broadcast one final message. It was short. 4. The words spread across the galaxy at the speed of light. Every species heard them. Every government received them. They received them on there, and for the first time in 10,000 years, they felt something they had forgotten existed. Fear. The humans had come faster than anyone believed possible. They had struck harder than anyone thought they could. They had taken the most important station in the galaxy and vanished before the Concordat could respond. And this was only the beginning. The news of the Nexus ring spread across the galaxy like fire through dry grass. For thousands of years, the Concordat had seemed unbreakable. Now a species that had been dismissed as primitive insects had torn a hole through its heart. High Arbiter sat alone in his chamber on the. His advisors had fled. They were afraid to be near him when his rage broke. He stared at the reports on his screen and felt something cold crawling through his blood. This was not supposed to happen. Humanity was supposed to collapse after execution. They were supposed to understand that they had no chance against the might of the Concordat. Instead, they had responded with violence that made no sense. The data stolen from the Nexus ring was the worst part. The humans now knew everything, every secret, every weakness. every lie they had told their allies over 10,000 years. Within a week, the first cracks appeared. 3 species from the Concordat. They did it quietly, without explanation. One day their ambassadors were in the Hall of Voices. The next day they were gone, their ships heading home at maximum speed. They had seen what the humans could do, and they wanted no part of the coming war. Was furious. He sent messages demanding their return. He threatened consequences. The 3 species did not respond. Then came worse news. 2 more species, the and the Hollowborn, had begun secret talks with Earth. A spy in the government reported that human diplomats had arrived on there with promises of protection and trade. Made a decision that would destroy everything he had built. He sent a fleet to them with a simple message: return to the Concordat or be destroyed. They were a small species. They had only a handful of ships. They could not fight but when fleet arrived they found human warships waiting for them. The battle was short. The fleet was destroyed. Admiral broadcast a message after the battle. The Concordat threatens its own members with destruction for seeking peace with humanity. Let this be clear to all species. We will protect those who wish to leave. We will destroy those who try to stop them. Choose your side carefully. The message changed everything. Species that had been afraid to act now saw that humanity would defend them. Within a month, 5 more from the Concordat, then 3 more, then 4 more. The great alliance that had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years was falling apart. While the political situation crumbled, the military campaign continued. Human fleets struck targets across 100 systems. They did not attack cities or civilian stations. They hit military bases, shipyards, weapons factories. Each strike was precise. Each target was carefully chosen. The message was clear. Humanity was not trying to exterminate them. They were trying to remove their ability to wage war. It was justice, not genocide. But there was one target that everyone knew was coming: High Arbiter himself. The old reptile knew they would come for him. He fled in secret, traveling to a hidden bunker on a world that did not appear on any star chart. Only his most trusted guards knew the location. He would wait there until the storm passed. The humans could not fight forever. Eventually they would tire and he would rebuild. He underestimated humanity again. Terran intelligence had been working for months to find him. The data from the Nexus ring helped, but it was not enough. Had been careful. His bunker was truly hidden. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. One of his own guards was secretly horrified by what the High Arbiter had done. He had watched execution and felt sick. When human agents made contact, he agreed to help. The guard sent a single transmission. It contained coordinates and a map of the bunker's defenses. Then he went silent, knowing that he would probably die for his betrayal. A special operations team was assembled. 12 soldiers, the best humanity had. Their mission was simple: capture alive. He would face trial for his crimes. The team landed on the bunker world at night. They moved through the darkness like ghosts, avoiding patrols and disabling sensors. The bunker was deep underground, protected by layers of security. It did not matter. Human soldiers were trained to overcome any obstacle. They reached chamber just before dawn. He was awake, sitting in a chair, staring at a screen showing reports of his failing empire. When the door exploded inward, he did not even flinch. "I knew you would come," he said. His voice was tired. "Your species does not know when to stop." The team leader, a woman named Sergeant, pointed her rifle at his head. "High Arbiter, you are under arrest for crimes against humanity. You will be transported to Earth to stand trial. Resist and you will be restrained. Try to escape and you will be stopped. Those are your only options." Laughed. It was an empty sound. "A trial? Your species knows nothing of galactic law. This is a farce." Maybe said, "But it is more than you gave, Ambassador. Stand up. Put your hands behind your back now." They brought to Earth in chains. He was placed in a secure facility and given lawyers and translators and every opportunity to defend himself. The trial was broadcast on every frequency, just as execution had been. But this trial was different. This trial was fair. Witnesses about the planning of murder. Documents from the Nexus ring proved that the charges against humanity had been fabricated. Video showed laughing as he ordered the execution. Everything was presented clearly and honestly. The galaxy watched in amazement. This was not what they expected from the species they had called primitive. Human justice was thorough and careful. It followed rules. It allowed the accused to speak. It demanded proof. Tried to argue that he had acted for the good of the galaxy. He claimed that humanity was a threat that had to be stopped, but his own words condemned him. The evidence was overwhelming. The verdict came after 3 weeks of testimony. Guilty on all charges. Expected death. He had given death to, and he assumed he would receive the same, but the human judge surprised him. The sentence is life imprisonment, the judge announced. You will spend the rest of your existence in a cell, watching as the empire you built crumbles and the species you despised rises. Death would end your suffering. We choose to let it continue. Admiral was present at the sentencing. Reporters asked her for a comment. She looked at with cold eyes and said only 5 words. Death would be a mercy. The trial changed how the galaxy saw humanity. They were not mindless savages seeking revenge. They were a civilization that believed in justice, even for their worst enemies. Species that had been neutral began sending messages of support. Species that had supported the Concordat began to question their choice. The hegemony stood alone. Their allies had abandoned them. Their military was shattered. Their leader was in a human prison. 10,000 years of dominion were ending. And humanity was just getting started. The war did not end with a great final battle. It ended with a message. 18 months after died in the Hall of Voices, the government sent a transmission to Earth. It was not defiant. It was not threatening. It was a simple request for peace. They had nothing left. Their fleet was destroyed. Their economy had collapsed. Their allies had abandoned them. The species that had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years was broken. They had no choice but to surrender. Admiral received the message on the bridge of the. She read it twice to make sure she understood. Then she sat down heavily in her chair and closed her eyes. For a long moment, she said nothing. Her officers watched her carefully. They had followed her through fire and death. They had seen her make impossible decisions without hesitation. Now, for the first time, they saw tears on her face. It's over, she said quietly. We won. The news spread across the human fleet. Soldiers who had not slept properly in months felt the tension drain from their bodies. Some laughed. Some cried. Some simply stood in silence, unable to believe that they had survived. On Earth, the announcement came at midnight. The Terran Compact broadcast a simple statement. The had surrendered. The war was over. Humanity had won. People poured into the streets in every city on the planet. They celebrated through the night and into the morning. Strangers hugged strangers. Old enemies embraced. For one beautiful moment, humanity was completely united in joy. But the work was not finished. Winning the war was only the first step. Now humanity had to decide what kind of galaxy they wanted to build. A conference was called on the Nexus Ring, which humans had held since the first battle. Representatives from every species in the galaxy were invited. Some came eagerly. Others came fearfully. They came with their heads bowed, expecting harsh punishment. Admiral led the human delegation. She wore her dress uniform and walked with quiet dignity through the halls where had walked almost 2 years before. She thought about her old friend with every step. Had come here seeking peace. Had come here to make that peace a reality. The conference hall was packed. Species that had never spoken to each other sat side by side. The air was thick with tension and hope and uncertainty. Everyone waited to hear what humanity would demand. Stood at the central podium. She looked out at the assembled representatives and saw fear in many eyes. They expected revenge. They expected humanity to take control of the galaxy by force. They expected to become slaves to a new master. She smiled slightly and began to speak. 2 years ago, a woman named stood in a room much like this one. She offered peace. She offered friendship. She was executed for her kindness. Her death started a war that has cost millions of lives and destroyed an empire that lasted 10,000 years. She paused. The hall was completely silent. Humanity could demand much. We have earned the right to claim territory, resources, power. We could become what they were. We could rule through fear as they did. Many of you expect this. Some of you believe you deserve this. She shook her head. You are wrong. Humanity did not fight this war for conquest. We fought for justice. We fought so that no species would ever again be executed for asking to join galactic civilization. We fought for the right to exist in peace. She lifted a document in her hand. This is the charter for a new organization. We call it the Galactic Assembly. It will replace the Concordat. But unlike the Concordat, the Assembly will give equal voice to every species, regardless of age or power. There will be no high arbiters. There will be no elder races with special privileges. Every world will have one vote. Every voice will be heard. Murmurs spread through the crowd. This was not what anyone expected. Humanity does not seek to lead this assembly. We ask only for the same rights we sought 2 years ago: trade, cooperation, friendship. The rights died trying to obtain. She set the charter on the podium. We offer this freely. We demand nothing in return except a promise. Never again will a species be condemned without fair trial. Never again will diplomats be executed for seeking peace. Never again will the strong crush the weak simply because they can. The representative stood first. They accept this charter. We have waited 10,000 years for someone to challenge the old order. We will gladly help build the new one. The spoke next. They accept. We believe in justice and wisdom. Humanity has shown both. One by one, species rose to accept. Former enemies, former neutrals, even some who had fought against humanity in the war. They saw something in the human offer that they had never seen from they saw genuine respect. Finally, only they were left. Their representative was young and frightened. The old leaders were dead or imprisoned. This new generation had inherited a broken legacy. What do you want from us? The young asked. What punishment do you demand? Looked at him with something that might have been compassion. We want you to join us, not as rulers, not as servants, as equals. Your species made terrible mistakes, but your species is not your leaders. You can choose a different path. The young stared at her for a long moment. Then slowly he bowed his head. They accept. We will try to earn the forgiveness we do not deserve. The assembly was born in that moment. It was not perfect. There would be arguments and conflicts and setbacks in the years to come. Building a fair government for a galaxy of diverse species was not easy. But it was possible. Humanity had proven that. A memorial was built on the site where it had died. It was a simple statue of a woman with her hand extended in greeting. The same gesture she had made when she first arrived at the Hall of Voices. Beneath the statue, words were carved in every known language. She came with peace. You answered with death. We answered with fire. Let this be remembered. Visitors came from across the galaxy to see the statue. They stood before it and thought about what it meant. A single woman, unarmed and alone, had changed the course of history. Her death had awakened a sleeping giant. Her memory had inspired a revolution. Admiral retired after the assembly was established. She had spent 2 years fighting. She wanted to spend her remaining years in peace. She returned to Earth and lived quietly, refusing interviews and honors. But once a year, on the anniversary of death, she visited the memorial. On her final visit, when she was very old, a young human girl approached her. The girl did not know who was. She simply saw an old woman standing alone before the statue. Who was she? The girl asked, pointing at Stone Face. Smiled, she was my friend. She believed that all species could live together in peace. She died for that belief. Did it work? The girl asked. The peace. Looked up at the stars. Ships from a dozen species moved through the sky. Somewhere out there, humans and aliens worked side by side, traded, learned from each other, built a future together. Yes, she said. It worked, not perfectly, not easily, but yes, she would be proud. The girl nodded and ran off to join her parents, who were talking with a group of tourists. Watched them laugh together, species that had once been strangers, now friends. This was legacy, not war, not revenge, not an empire built on fear. Connection, understanding, hope. Humanity had shown the galaxy what they were capable of when pushed. They could destroy fleets and topple empires. They could bring ancient powers to their knees. They were terrifying when provoked. But they had also shown something more important. They were capable of mercy. They were capable of forgiveness. They were capable of building instead of destroying. The galaxy would never forget either lesson. And somewhere in whatever place spirits go after death smiled. Her sacrifice had not been in vain. The peace she had sought was finally real. The future she had dreamed of had finally arrived. Humanity had earned its place among the stars.